Hello there, welcome once again to this class. This particular lesson, we are going to be looking into the topic ledger lines. Ledger lines. As we already know, the staff is made up of 5 lines and 4 spaces, and it is on these lines and spaces that the musical notes are written. But then it's good we know and ask ourselves whether it's possible to write a note outside the range of the staff. Is it possible to write notes outside the range of the staff? That is what we intend to answer in this lesson. Of course, the answer is yes. We can write notes outside the range of the staff. When we say the range of the staff, referring to the 5 lines and 4 spaces. Now the musical staff, of course, we know has been designed such that when we put our notes there, we can easily perform them either by singing or by playing on the instrument. Now because of the need to write some notes which the staff cannot accommodate, that now gives rise to ledger lines, which is the subject of this lesson. Now let's look at the meaning of a ledger line. A ledger line is a short horizontal line that is written above or below a staff to accommodate notes that are either too high or low for the staff. So these are short lines, horizontal lines written above or below the staff. It's possible you can find ledger lines either above or below the treble staff, or either above or below the bass staff. Now on the grand staff, as we can see on the screen, we have a ledger line between the treble staff and the bass staff, and that ledger line is actually middle C. That ledger line is actually middle C. That should be a reference point from where we can now find every other ledger line in on the staff. Now let's look into how the ledger lines appears. How do we see them on the staff? First, let's look at the treble staff. Yes, on the treble staff, we know already that the 5 lines, we have every good boy deserves favor. There is name of the 5 lines, and then that of the spaces, we have FACE. Now that is just a simple mnemonic to enable us know the names of the lines and spaces. But then for the ledger line, you will observe for the ledger line below this treble staff, we have the very first one, then followed by the second and third and fourth. That is the way they are placed on below the staff. And then if it's going to be above, we only have them in this order, the first, second and third, referencing the top of the staff. Then also for the bass staff, yes, we have the bass staff. Let's not forget again that the 5 lines of the bass staff, they are named as G, B, D, F and A. We use the simple mnemonics to equally remember them. Good boy deserves favor always. While the spaces on the bass is all cow eat grass, we use that to equally remember A, C, E, G. Now the way the ledger line will be placed on the bass staff, for the ledger lines below, we are going to have them in this order. Okay, the first, the second, the third and the fourth. And then if it's going to be placed above the bass staff, we're equally going to have it like this: the first, the second, the third and the fourth a ledger line. Okay, we want to quickly look at each individual staff, the treble staff and then the bass staff. So we'll look at the treble staff. Let's begin with that. First, let's look at the staff. Now that's the treble staff. Now of course I don't need to talk about this again, that the 5 lines already, this. And then we equally know the name of the spaces. We need this information, we need this knowledge to help us to navigate between inside the ledger lines, because if you are struggling to understand, to master the names of the lines and spaces of the treble staff, it might be difficult for you to easily get the ledger line. So you need to know this one very, very well, and then before we now know how to now move from here to now find the lines that are not in this staff. How do I know the name of the lines and spaces? Now first, let's get the ledger lines that are below this treble staff again. That's the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. Now the first ledger line is shown here. That's the very first ledger line. Okay, that is the way it is counted. Okay, unlike the regular staff, we count the regular staff from bottom to top. But now when we are counting the ledger line, take note of how we count them. Okay, that is the very first one there. Then followed by the second ledger line. That's the second ledger line. And then this is the third, and this is the fourth. Now for the spaces is not only the lines we take note of, we equally take note of the spaces, just as we did when we were finding out the alphabet name of the lines and spaces of the staff. So in the same way, the alphabet names of the lines and spaces of ledger lines we can still find out. So now, where is now the first space? The first space will be the space below the staff. That is the first space. Now this is the second space, this is the third, and this is the fourth. Okay, having known the lines and spaces now how do we now identify them? What are their letter names? How do we trace them? Now first and foremost, let's take note that we make use of the following alphabet in music, which is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, to name our notes and to name our lines and spaces. Now, but the order in which we use them is such that in the ascending order, in going upward, we go from A to G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then in the descending order, when we are going downward, this time it will be F, it will be G, F, E, D, C, B, A. That is the order. We need this to be able to get the letter names of these lines and spaces for the treble staff right now, for these ones we have identified below the treble staff. Now let's look at the very first space we see there. What will now be the ledger line, the name, the letter name? What will now be the letter name of that space? Now, judging from what we have on the screen, we know that the first line is E. So if we are going downward, we have seen an E. Now we have a space below E. Of course, we are not going to skip. We are going from line to space, from space to line, line to space. That is how we are moving. If you study the staff, you see that is how the notes are written. From E, which is a line, we went to F, which is a space. From F, we went to G, which is a line. From G, we went to A, which is a space. From A to B, which is a line. From B to C, which is a space. From C to D, which is a line. From D to E, which is a space. And then from E to F. Okay, now let's come back to the ledger line. That ledger line, which is the first space below the staff there, the alphabet will now be what? Can you guess? If you said F, you are wrong. The alphabet will be D. That is D. Then the second one, which is now the first ledger line, will now be C. Remember, we are going downward. Okay, so when we get to E, when we are going downward, the next alphabet we are going to get will be a D. When we are going downward, the next alphabet will be a C. That is the order. Okay, now the second space there will now be what? B. You are right. It will not be B. Then the second ledger line this time will be A. Yes. Now when we have got to A, how do we now know the third space? The third space below on the ledger lines. The third space on the ledger line. That is the space below the second ledger line. The space below the second ledger line. Okay, that will be G, because once we get to A, we go down again to G, and then it's just like a cycle. That's how we read the alphabet. And then thereafter we now have, if we are going down, we are going to have F again, then we have E on that space, and then we have D. Now this is the letter name of the lines and spaces of these ledger lines. These 4 ledger lines are below the treble staff. Now for the ledger lines above the treble staff, we have them 1, 2, 3, 4. They are there in that order. The space above, the first space will be G, and then followed by A. Remember, we are going upward now. And then the space above the first ledger line will be B, then followed by C, which is the second ledger line above, and then followed by D, which is that space, and then the third ledger line will be E. The space above the third ledger line will be F, and then the fourth ledger line will be G. So these are the names of the letter. These are the letter names of the ledger lines above the treble staff. Now let's quickly go to the base staff. For the base staff, yes, we have it there, the base staff. Okay, first and foremost, let's take note that the names of the lines and spaces, they are different from that of the treble staff. Now for the base staff, we have them in this order: G, B, D, F, A, which we can use the mnemonic good boy deserves favor always to remember. And then for the spaces, we can use all cow eat grass to remember that. Now let's go to the ledger lines below the base staff in that order, the first to the fourth. The first one again, yes, that is that. Then that is the second. Then we have the third, and then we have the fourth. Then for the spaces below the base staff, that is the first space, the second is there, the third, and the fourth. Now how do we now name it again? In the same manner we did with the treble staff. Of course, we still make use of the following alphabet A to G, and then we have them in the upward direction, and we know how to read them in the downward direction. So now, since we have got a G, which is our first line in the base, so the space below there will now be F, because you need to get to F before you get to G. So if you are going downward from G, you come down to F, and then thereafter we have the next space there, which is the first ledger line, will be E, and then that space there will now be D, and then this space here will now be C. Okay, now I'm going to test you on this other one. Now what is the name of this space that is below the second ledger line? Can you guess? B. You are right, it's going to be a B. B, you are right, it's going to be a B. Then followed by A, which is the third ledger line below, and then we now have, yes, we now have a G. Remember, when we get to A, we'll go back to G, and then thereafter finally we have F. Now for the ledger lines above, now we are going to have them in this order again, starting from the first ledger line to the fourth, first, second, third, and fourth. Now if we want to name them, yes, for that space we are going to have a B, then followed by C, because we are going upward. We had an A, which was our last line on the staff. Then the space there will now be B. Now that C we are seeing, which is the first ledger line, is the same as the middle C. Let's not forget, it's the same as the middle C. Okay, and then we now, because it's the ledger line, the first ledger line above the base staff and the first ledger line below the treble staff, they are both C, and they are the same, and that is where we find our middle C. So now let's continue. So from C, the space above middle C now will now have AD, and then the second ledger line will now be E, the space above will now be F, and then the third ledger line will be what? Will be G, the space above will be A, and then the fourth ledger line will be B. Yes, that is all about ledger lines, identifying their letter names, whether they are on the lines or the spaces, wherever note we put there. This is key, in helping you to master the staff. Okay, now before we go, there are some evaluation questions I just want you to look at. You need to look at these questions and try it. I want you to write them down, because I want to see how much you have followed me in this lesson. So the first question is there for you. Take it down, and then this is the second question. Take note of these questions, answer them, and then we have the third question there for you. Just write them down and let's see how good you are, okay, in following us. So to summarize, having written down the question, now to summarize for the day, we have said ledger lines are used to accommodate notes that do not fit into the range of the staff. They are either too high or too low for the staff, so they needed to be written outside, so we have to use ledger lines to accommodate these notes on the staff. Okay, when we play instruments, many times we play instruments and play on some of these notes that does not fit into the staff. Even sometimes when we sing, some notes are not on the staff and we have to perform them. So you need to know just beyond the 5 lines and 4 spaces of the notes of the staff, you need to know the lines and spaces outside the staff, and that is the essence of this class. Okay, we've equally looked at that ledger lines are counted with reference to the top or bottom of the staff. Okay, you should know which one is the first ledger line now, wherever they are placed. And then finally, in knowing the name of the ledger line or space, always count from the no line or space of the staff. You know the name of the alphabet of the lines and spaces. From there, pick it up. You know how to count upward, you know how to count downward. Just pick it up from there and you'll be able to find the name of the lines and spaces. So that is the end of our class for this lesson. I want to believe that you have understood the lesson and you do take your quizzes and prepare yourself for the next class when we see again. Thank you. Bye bye.